the cabinet war rooms were being prepared, and several of us were asked to go down and see how they were making progress, which was a bit slow, but eventually they got it more or less right. And it wasn't perfect by any means. There were no toilet facilities down there. You had to go up 2 flights, and we slept down there, and we had to walk up 2 flights to wash, etc., in the mornings. When we were properly organised, at first we worked all the hours that there were, but it couldn't go on forever because we were really exhausted. We worked from 2 o'clock lunchtime, and we were on duty till 2 o'clock the next day. Didn't have to stop up the whole night, but it depended on whether Churchill would have a defence committee meeting very late at night, which he liked, after 10 o'clock, and then we'd have to wait, and they would do draft minutes. We sometimes didn't take it down in shorthand, but the general would dictate straight onto the typewriter, and that would mean a very late night. And we slept down below in it was dreadful. Where the Cabinet Office, I don't know if you've seen the Cabinet Office rooms now, in the floor below where we worked, and it was really horrible. And there were bed bugs. One girl was bitten. It was really a disaster. But as the war went on, it was all improved. And eventually we were allowed to go up to the 2nd floor, to our proper rooms. We had to, most of the time, eat in the canteen, which was pretty awful. But when I was on duty with a few other girls, as we were then, we used to, they were new, Quality Inn, and when they opened up, they were much better than our canteen. So if we had time, we used to go there to Leicester Square, to the Quality Inn, and have a meal, and then go back to the office. There was a lot of tremendous amount of paperwork, because Churchill didn't speak on the telephone. He would send notes with a label on the top, if necessary, "Action this day," in red and white, and you knew that had to be done. He would be on to you if it wasn't. We used to work below in the cabinet war rooms, but at times we were on the 2nd floor. One evening we were in the cabinet war rooms, and Churchill padded in, opened the window and stood outside looking up at what was happening. And there was a great, "Get him out, get him back." We didn't know whether we were going to be bombed, and there was Churchill with all the preparation to keep him safe, getting out by himself. A tense moment, I can tell you. When I worked for General Ismay, he attended a Chiefs of Staff meeting every morning. I had to prepare his papers, and any relevant papers that were going to be discussed, and he would go into the meeting. The chiefs of staff came to our office, and sometimes they would want somebody to take a few notes, and I'd just go into the meeting for a short time, but I never stopped for the whole meeting. They discussed things for quite a long time, and then Ismay had to report to Churchill on what had been discussed. He had to make up his mind which of the subjects were necessary to be passed on. In the morning, I used to get the General's papers ready for the meeting. Is that what you mean? And then when he came out, he would dictate something or another, or there were letters that he needed. I was general stenographer, really, but I had to keep the files of some of it, not all of it. And he might have to report to Sir Edward Bridges, who was the secretary on the civil side to the cabinet, to Churchill. The office was divided up, the civil side and the military side. And when Ismay realized that there was something for the civilians, for the civilian committee to discuss, he would pass it over to Sir Edward Bridges. General Ismay was a most wonderful man. He was quite brilliant. He was very nice to work for, but apart from that, he used to go, he was at Churchill's beck and call day or night. It didn't matter the time. Churchill didn't work by the clock. When other people were sleeping, he was awake, and he was calm. He never got irritable or cross, and for that reason, I think he did his job extremely well. Being of such a calm nature, he was. They wore uniform. I mean, the officers wore their uniform. He was extremely smart, and time or day, night or day, very, very smart looking.
And how did he treat you and your colleagues?
Extremely well. He was, if there is such a thing as a perfect gentleman, he would treat a messenger in the same way as he would treat a high officer. He was very, very polite and extremely well-mannered. Only once did I go to Chequers. He used to go there at the weekends, and one Sunday, General Ismay was asked to go, and it was my turn to be on duty because we had to do shifts by then. And I went with him to Chequers, and he went in for the conference. Winston, little baby Winston, I think was about 2, he walked behind him You know how Churchill walked with his hands behind his back. This little tot copied him and walked behind him. Anyway, he went in for the conference, and I just sat around, and Mrs. Churchill, Lady Churchill, as she became, was having lunch there while the bigwigs were having their lunch. So I had lunch with her. I suppose it was the morning room or something, while the others were in the big dining room. And after lunch, I was still waiting to do some work. There was a film, and he sat in the front in his dressing gown, and we just sat at the back. And that was it. I didn't have any work to do. I was expecting it. But on the way back in the car, the General dictated some notes for me to take down, which I did. But I thought it was quite an exciting day. When I went on conferences to Washington, to Quebec, Yalta and Malta.
What do you remember about the Yalta conference?
Yeah, the Yalta conference was just before peace, but I don't remember in detail about it. Afterwards, people said it was unnecessary, but I did see Roosevelt. He looked as though he was dying very, very poorly, and he died shortly after that when he went back to Washington. But Stalin never appeared. None of us were allowed, none of the junior staff, were ever allowed to see him.
And do you remember the day the war ended?
Yes, I was in the office. It was it a Sunday morning? We were told. Oh no. Oh, I can't remember the day. But it was great excitement, and a crowd of us went outside Buckingham Palace. It was crowded there, and we were all shouting and singing, and it was the most wonderful feeling. The war was over. And the King and Queen came out onto the balcony and waved, and the atmosphere was absolutely electric, wonderful. Relief